friends, DayDreamin Mom here. So I'm going to be starting a new segment for my YouTube channel. I'm not sure what I'm going to call it yet. I'm still working on that. But I'm going to be sharing, just to kick off right now, a literary work that I've written. I may also include some poetry. Hopefully, eventually, I'll be able to start a podcast and share some other creative writers' works. We'll see how that goes. I need to do a little more research into that first to make sure I do that correctly. Spooky ghost stories during the holiday season. Yeah, Victorian era, England. If you study that up, that was a time when families and friends would gather together around a warm fire, drinking spiced cider and hot cocoa and sharing local stories that had been published in magazines or in the newspaper, or just made up stories. And they did that because it gets darker in the wintertime and they had to get home sooner. So they had more time to kill between the time they got home and the time they'd settle down for the night. So spooky ghost stories in the wintertime around the holiday season was a thing in Victoria era England for a time. It did not become very popular in the United States. However, when Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol, it was kind of a slow trickle for that getting noticed in the Americas, but it was very popular in Victoria era England. In fact, Charles Dickens was known for his spooky ghost stories at that time, and he would help other writers through his publications and through some editorial help that he would give them with their seasonal spooky stories that they would write. So fun tidbit of history there. You can study up on that if you like. If you have more information to share about that, please feel free to share in the comments. So I'm going to share a story I wrote called The Storm. And just kind of jumping back into that tradition of sharing spooky ghost stories during Christmas time. I know that seems odd to some people. However, yeah, that was a thing, Victoria era England, and I think it's still a thing for some families. If that's a tradition your family has, sharing a spooky ghost story at Christmas time, please feel free to share in the comments. And also like and subscribe for updated content as I get this thing going. So, yeah, if you have any thoughts about that, what do you think about spooky ghost stories during the holiday season? Is that something that we should try to bring back? Is it something we should try to make more popular here in America? Something, that's hundreds of years old tradition, or should spooky stories stay with Halloween? What do you think? A Christmas Carol is certainly one of, and will eternally, in my opinion, forever be one of the best spooky, Christmas time stories. I think Tim Burton also nailed it with A Nightmare Before Christmas. That's a popular one in our family to watch at Halloween and Christmas time. So I'm going to pitch in a little contribution of my own. I was thinking of doing a 12 Days of Christmas, reading something every day on my channel leading up to Christmas. I'm not going to promise anything. I am DayDreamin Mom, and I'm a very busy mom, so that'd be quite a goal. I'm going to try though, so please check back for updated content. I may be able to throw some more pieces in before Christmas Eve, but we'll see. So without further ado, this is The Storm, and this is an original work that I'm sharing with you today. It was Christmas Eve. I was driving home at 1 a.m. Light snow flurries drifted from the sky, disappearing quickly from view as my windshield wiper swept them away. The road lights were dim, and the road was icy. Bing Crosby's White Christmas echoed dolefully through the car radio speakers. I shook my head, trying to stay awake. I attributed this fatigue to the fact that I moved around a lot as a kid and slept in the car. "Why didn't you leave at 10, Carrie?" I chastised myself, taking a big gulp of an energy drink I kept in the console for just such a mistake. It doesn't always help. I knew I was in trouble tonight. I could feel the weight of sleep bearing down on my brain. My head bobbed, and I jerked awake, almost swerving into the next lane. My mom had asked if I wanted to stay the night. I should have. I was almost home, though, and just had to make it the next 10 miles. I could hear the water rushing high and swift below me. The lights penetrated just a few feet in front of me. The headlights revealed a sign for Ridgeway Bridge. I took a deep breath and drove forward onto the old wooden slats. The front of the car dipped forward, top-heavy due to the engine. Then I slid. I pumped the brakes and the car drifted slowly into the side of the bridge, grinding up against the railing. I rolled my window down and looked over the door. I was met by more blackness and couldn't see why my wheels were spinning. I put the car in park, removed the keys from the ignition, and stepped out. My feet were met with a rushing puddle of freezing water up to my ankles. I opened the trunk and pulled out the flashlight, shining the light around the bridge. The rising water had utterly consumed it. A tree branch or small log was wedged between the undercarriage. I knelt and grabbed the end with both hands, pulling and shimmying it towards me until it became unstuck, and I slid it out, tossing it over the bridge. A chill shot up my spine, and not just from the cold. I was completely unnerved. I returned to my car and turned it on, putting it in reverse and slowly rolling back into drive. I wouldn't fall asleep now, I mused, shivering and drenched. My hands felt frozen and stiff. Why didn't I pack gloves? I asked no one. The road was flooded too, and an emergency alert came on over the music, making my heart skip a beat. "Winter storm warning, high flood warning," the announcer spoke. "Possible road closures. Stay home." "No kidding," I whispered, half annoyed at myself and the announcer. 10 more miles to go. I pressed on, hoping to see an open patch of road soon. The road was washed out, too. I didn't know how bad it was until the water started pouring in through the bottom and sides of the door. The wheels must have lost contact with the road because within 5 minutes of driving off the bridge, I was being pushed downstream, and the rush of the water quickly picked up speed. I clung tight to the steering wheel and stared wide-eyed at the black void engulfing me. I absent-mindedly wondered if this was what it felt like to be sucked into a black hole. The front of the car dipped forward. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, shaking so badly I almost dropped it in the water. I wasn't controlling the car, so I let go of the steering wheel and tried to call 911. I couldn't get a signal and felt the car filling with more water, pressing down into the depths of the temporary river forming around me. The freezing water was over my waist now, and I couldn't return my phone without it being destroyed. I slipped it into the front top pocket of my jacket and zipped it closed, knowing it was futile. The car's mechanics had already stopped, and the engine flooded. Everything was dead. I opened the glove box and grabbed a tool with a window breaking point on the bottom of it. I never thought I'd use this 2 years ago, when I won it at an outdoor expo. Remembering the demonstration, I aimed it at the weakest point at the corner of the window. It didn't work right away. The water was up to my chest now. I took deep, slow breaths and aimed again. This time, it cracked hard across the pane, crackling perpendicular across the window. It didn't shatter like it did in the demonstration, and then I remembered. It only works like that on tempered glass. I pulled my wet jacket sleeve over my hand and pushed as hard as I could. The window came loose and crumpled like glitter stuck on thick, tacky paper. I pulled myself out, back facing forward, and wrenched myself up, pressing my hands on the upper lip of the window. The top of the car was wet, making it difficult to grip. I felt myself tipping backward at this odd angle and knew that I was about to fall into the water. Something hit the car. I felt a heavy thud come from somewhere behind the car as the current pushed a heavy but smaller object into it. I lost my grip and fell backward into the mucky, swirling river. I felt things in the water scraping against my skin. I tried desperately. Sorry, we have a temporary temporary distraction here. Yeah. No. Okay. Vanilla's going to come join us for our spooky ghost story. Okay. Sorry. You made me lose my spot. That's okay. You're a welcome distraction. Oh boy. Okay. Where were we? Something hit the car. Okay. The top of the car was wet, making it difficult to grip. I felt myself tipping backward at this odd angle and knew that I was about to fall into the water. Something hit the car. I felt a heavy thud come from somewhere behind the car as the current pushed a heavy but smaller object into it. I lost my grip and fell backward into the mucky, swirling river. I felt things in the water scraping against my skin. I tried desperately to remain afloat and kicked and thrust with my arms and legs with all my might. I felt weak and cold. The storm raged. The river groaned, and my muscles cramped up. My head smacked hard against something, and everything went dark. My eyes opened, heavy and slow. Bright, colorful dots swam in my vision. Blurry red, green, yellow, and blue lights slowly came into focus. Bing Crosby's White Christmas played steady and slow. A Christmas tree perched in the corner by the fireplace, glowing gently and warm with a simmering fire, created a welcome and warm feeling. "Wakey, wakey, Carrie!" My younger brother walked into the room, nudging at my arm. "We're about to open presents. Come on," he said, and hurried back out. I sat up, rubbing at my eyes, my heart still beating violently in my chest. I took a deep breath and looked around. I'd fallen asleep in the living room, on the living room couch, while everyone was visiting in the family room. I stood up and walked to the bay window, kneeling against the window seat, and pulled open the blinds, looking out into the blizzard, the dark and the cold. "Hey, Carrie," my mom walked in. "We're about to open presents. Are you coming?" she asked, waiting in the doorway. Yeah," I muttered. "That storm looks pretty bad, you know. You're welcome to stay the night." I wrapped my arms across my chest and turned to look at her. I could have sworn she'd already asked me that. "You know what? Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks," I smiled. "Great," she beamed. "You can take your old room at the end of the hall. Your sister and her family are going to camp out in the family room, and your brother's going to sleep on the couch in the basement." "Sounds perfect," I smiled. As she walked away, I looked once more out the window to the driveway. It all felt and seemed so real. I could have sworn that my mom had already asked me that. We'd already opened presents, had hot apple cider, shared past Christmas memories, and then said our goodbyes. I almost died. It was so real, I could have sworn. "Carrie," my family called from the other room. I shrugged it off and tried to enjoy the rest of the evening, though somehow I knew what everyone's presents were going to be before they opened them. The end. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little short, spooky Christmas Eve story. If you did, please like, subscribe. I truly appreciate the support and your friendship. Thank you so much. Not going to edit out my kitty jumping up and interrupting the story. I don't have time to do those kind of fancy edits. But she is a welcome contribution. We might see her from time to time. She's pretty attached to me. So thank you for enjoying this Christmas story, and I hope you have a fantastic holiday season. Like I said, I will, we'll see where this channel is going to go. You know, we'll see what happens. I am a writer and a poet. I do have a few small publications. Nothing fancy. You probably won't see me on any bookstore shelves. Don't even know if anything I've written is in a library. Probably not. But yeah, I'm working on it. So yeah, let me know if you enjoyed this. If you'd like to see more content like this, please feel free to comment and share, like and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Happy holidays. Bye.